The Japanese utility giant TEPCO is planning to dump more than 1 million cubic meters of treated radioactive water. That's enough to fill up 500 Olympic-sized swimming pools. It has met with vocal opposition from neighboring countries, but also within Japanese fishermen as well, and concerns have further risen with the recent 7.4 magnitude earthquake that struck off the coast of Fukushima, the region that was devastated by a deadly quake and tsunami 11 years ago, triggering, of course, nuclear power plants to melt down. To better understand what is the current situation, how the public feels about the region, and of course, a release of radioactive water, we spoke with Kenichi Oshima. He's the professor of environmental economics at Ryukoku University. He's also the chairperson of Citizens Commission of Nuclear Energy, otherwise known as CCNE. That's an independent research and advocacy body established after the Fukushima disaster that aims to devise a comprehensive and ethical set of policies concerning nuclear-related issues in Japan. Up first, here is our pre-recorded interview.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Let's start our interview. Japanese authorities and the IAEA said that no abnormalities were detected at the nuclear power plant in Fukushima amid the recent earthquake. Would an earthquake actually in the region affect the situation?
According to TEPCO, there was no change in radiation levels in Fukushima Daiichi after this month's earthquake. There was no increase in radiation levels. I think this was because after the accident in 2011, TEPCO strengthened its earthquake shaking assumptions by 1.5 times. The shaking in this month was less than the assumption level, so no significant damage occurred to the reactor building. But many problems have occurred at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. Nuclear Regulation Authority in Japan has not yet conducted detailed verification at the moment, but there are some of the things happened. First, I'd like to talk about the containers with radioactive waste. 8 containers collapsed during the earthquake. 4 of them broke, and the low-level radioactive wastes got out. Several other containers also toppled over. And there are 85,500 outdoor waste containers, so I think we have found a risk for future waste management in the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant.
You said there were several different reasons why it's worth monitoring. Some of the treated water tanks were also moved. Is that a problem?
Yeah, there are 1,136 tanks in Fukushima Daiichi, and 160 tanks of them moved. The treated water storage tanks don't have piles to prevent moving. Several plant engineers have pointed out that this is one of the severe problems regarding tanks. If the tanks were to shift significantly, the piping could break. Though the pipes didn't break this time, an earthquake could be a problem in the future.
So it has to remain exactly in place for it to not cause any subsequent problems, but if it moves significantly, as you said, it could damage the piping and cause bigger ripple effects. What are some other reasons why the latest headlines is a cause for concern?
I think that a steel beam fell down inside the reactor building of Unit 4 in Fukushima Daiichi. But at the moment, we don't know what happened inside the building because of the level of radiation is quite high. I think TEPCO will need to conduct a detailed investigation in the future after earthquake.
Further and future detailed investigation might be necessary.
Yeah.
Okay. Residents of Fukushima just marked, from what I understand, the 11th anniversary of the nuclear disaster. I do wonder, what is the situation there in the region? I've heard about contaminated soil being a point of concern or a problem, and of course, the situation with fisheries and people's dependence and confidence in the local fisheries.
Yeah. As you know, that decontamination is a process of removing contaminated soil to other place. The government transported contaminated soil to an interim storage facility located near the power plant. But the problem is that the amount of soil is so large, so the Ministry of the Environment in Japan is trying to promote reusing and recycling the contaminated soil in Fukushima and around Japan. And people in Fukushima objected the governmental plan, so the plan of recycling is not going ahead at the moment. But the government has conducted experiments of reusing the contaminated soil on farmland in an evacuation area in Iitate village in Fukushima. And people, unfortunately, accepted the experiment with distress because the former presidents wanted to go back to their homes. After their acceptance, the government paid extra money to conduct decontamination work in the area.
What about the fisheries industry in the region? Because we're talking about local and foreign confidence in fish that are caught in the region too.
For fishery, the test operation was completed last March, and the fishery is now underway for full-scale operation. But the fishery has not returned to the pre-accidental level. Fishers are voluntarily measuring radiation levels to ensure safety. The current concern of fishers now is the impact of ALPS treated water release, which the government and TEPCO plan.
I think it's really interesting that the local fisheries industry are voluntarily measuring radiation levels when it seems like it's in the government's interest to intervene. I do have to ask you, Mr. Oshima, what is the sentiment of the Fukushima residents? What do they think about the release of treated water?
Most people in Fukushima opposed to the release of ALPS-treated water in the sea. Many people in Fukushima Prefecture also signing a petition against the release. Currently, 167,890 signatures have been collected.
Okay, I do wonder if it wouldn't be in the best interest of the Japanese government to listen to what the locals want. Does the general public view differ outside of the Fukushima region and the release of the treated water?
The general public in Japan has lost interest in the Fukushima nuclear accident gradually. Because the Japanese government and TEPCO have been advertising that release of ALPS-treated water is safe. So many people in Japan are reluctantly in favor of releasing it. However, on the other hand, many people have doubts. There are also many strong objections against the release.
All right, which is all the more the reason why the work at CCNE seems to be more timely and important. Thank you so much for giving us some insight this morning, Mr. Oshima. Do have yourself a safe day, and we hope to speak to you soon.
Thank you very much.
If you're listening to our program using the podcast service, just a reminder that we do go live Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. Korea Standard Time. So tune in and help us make the show more informative by giving us your input. See you bright and early on Good Morning Seoul.